what was like the biggest disaster as far as focus tests go in terms of something you thought would go over really well and it just bombed? And then conversely, what was one of the most well-received playtest sessions that you've been a part of?
Thinking back to the earlier Ratchets, on Ratchet 1 we had a spaceship battle against Captain Quark about 2/3 into the game. We thought it was going to be pretty easy, and it was something that all of us would play for about 10 minutes and complete, and we felt that it was a decent length for a boss round. 10 to 20 minutes is about right. And the people would just be playing for 90 minutes, never repeating it, constantly. It just sucked up a lot of time, and there was a lot of frustration around it. So we had to go back and retune that, make it a little bit easier, make the challenge a bit more clear to people. We had missiles that would just come off from off screen and nail you from the side. I guess people don't like that.
Yeah, go figure. Yeah.
Game being cheap, never.
Yeah. And then one of the big surprises was the arena challenges in Ratchet 2. And we were excited about it, and we thought it was going to go well, but we just didn't realize how well it would be received. And people would play it for 90 minutes or 2 hours, and we'd go up to them and say, there's more game to play. You don't have to complete everything. And they're like, no, I want to play it. I'm really having a good time, and I'm getting to earn bolts and upgrade my weapons. And so that was a great thing to see, and that's really what inspired us to continue making arena challenges for Up Your Arsenal and then of course Deadlocked.
I'm curious to know, you and I went to DICE and we saw, I think her name was Nicole Lazarus.
That's right.
And she talked about sort of the 4 quadrants of fun, and one of the things she talked about also was how she records, and I mean, not that this is new in market research, but how she records people's facial expressions as they're playing games to kind of get a more visual cue on what is fun and what isn't fun. We don't do that up at Foster City. We haven't really done that before. Do you think something like that would be helpful for our games, or do you think that we're not quite there yet?
Actually, I think we're already doing it to some degree. There's many different ways to get information from a focus test. We record some of the data while people are playing the game. So there's stuff like how many bolts they've collected, number of times they died, the amount of time they spent in the level, the amount of experience they get. All of that stuff we can take from either a memory card or off the hard drive and then put that into a spreadsheet and analyze it. And then the other data you get is just by watching them play and seeing where Ratchet runs, where they're trying to get them to go, and where they might be confused. And then another bigger component of it, which we do that I don't know if a lot of other developers do, is we actually sit inside the room with the focus testers. There's every focus test room has the kind of the one-way mirror, one-way glass, and a lot of times developers will sit on the other side. And I guess the idea is that you don't disturb the players, and you don't. They don't realize that someone's right behind them. But we found that if we sit right behind them, they don't really notice us because they're so wrapped up in the game they have their headphones on. And from that, what we get is the sighs or the laughs or the chuckles or the grins, or maybe one kid might lean over to another and kind of smile at something that's happening on the screen. And that really helps us get a lot of information on how they experience the game and whether or not they're enjoying it or if they're frustrated.
I remember when I first couple weeks here, since I hadn't played Resistance yet, I helped internally focus test it, and the Jeep level at the time was nearly impossible. I spent something like an hour on the Jeep level, and I think I got through the game at the time in like 8 hours or so, 8-9 hours. Like I blazed through the game, but the Jeep level was like the big roadblock for me, and I spent a ton of time on that level. And I remember also, it was kind of funny when we were looking at the data for my playthrough, like I took a really long time on the first 3 levels, and then I sharply dropped down and just blazed through the rest of the game. And it was really funny, like talking to the designers who were trying to analyze that data, because they were very confused at that on the spreadsheet where I had this like spike at the beginning and like way above most normal people, and then the rest of the time I was trending way ahead of everyone else. What kind of stuff has to go into the game to get ready for a focus test? Because seems like I've seen a lot of recent additions just to get it to that point, like messages and things like that.
Yeah, well, there's certainly there's the help messages that tell you what your controls are, what buttons you need to press to do various things, and how to use your weapons and gadgets, and then there's also just stuff like descriptions for any of the missions that you have to do. So that's very helpful. And then a lot of the little pickups and things that you tend to forget about when we make the game, we make it level by level, and each designer's focused on their own level, and they're thinking about what happens when you start playing, and then the point where you finally finish a section of it. And we don't always think about, oh yeah, that's right, you pick up an infobot here, and then it gives you some information about the next level that you're going to. And so those are the little links that we always have to remind ourselves to put in, because that's what makes it possible for people to play through it.
It's quite a lot to accomplish in a short amount of time.
Yes, and I think that's why the tools of destruction thing is ringing really clear right now, because we're starting to feel the pressure to make the game. And even though we knew we'd have a little bit of downtime, we'd really like to get up and running again. And fortunately, we've turned a corner in the last couple of days, and things are looking really good. And I feel very confident that we're going to hit our deadline.
Well, and the good thing, too, is now that we have a strong project management department, I mean, they built the tools release into the production schedule. So this was anticipated.
Yeah.